Have you ever thought about writing a fanfic? I think it's something that can be easily overlooked, but I do believe that it's really useful for a writer. Hello, I'm Valkyria with an I, and today we're gonna talk about writing fanfiction. Fanfics are like something that's actually really close to my heart because I used to think when I was younger that you should not write fanfiction because why will you do that? You can create your own character, your own story, and use just the same archetype. And now I am writing fanfiction. In fact, you are watching a speed paint of illustration I did for my fanfic. I know that fanfictions uses someone else's intellectual property or IP, and legally it's kind of a gray area, but over time I've discovered that it's actually a very powerful tool. IP protection, in most cases, it comes mainly from you cannot generate income from it. And even there are some gray areas, but I'm not gonna go into the legal stuff of this today. Today, I'm gonna talk, again, why fanfiction is worth your time. First, I believe it's a great starting point. Fanfiction lowers the barrier of entry. You can create like a very silly story, some plotless stuff, and just try your hand at writing. You don't have to worry a lot about character creation, about their personalities, physical descriptions, and even from a marketing stand, it's easier to get around because people will be looking for your stuff. I'm talking here specifically about how AO3 works. The cool thing is that you're working with a framework that you already know, with characters that you already love. And thinking about it, when you study something related with writing and storytelling, as I did, a lot of the times your teachers come like, oh, we have the archetypes and we have the mentor, the hero, the yada yada yada, usually based on Greek stories. And depending on who you read and the academic of your choosing, you are gonna have a specific set of archetypes. But if you think about it, archetypes are mainly the bones, the structure of your character. And what is a fanfiction if not the structure of your characters with someone else's character? I know that more than once, even when I'm creating something original, I'm like, my original character, it's like this character from this series mixed with this character of this book, mixed with this character of this movie. It's like a mix of everything. And it tends to be more one than the other. And as I write my story, the character turns into its own person, its own being. Even if it started as a copy of another character, it ends up turning into its own person because it will have its own backstory and all that jazz. So I think it's really interesting how it lowers the barrier of entry and it makes it easier. And you really don't need an audience to start because you're doing it for the joy of writing. And I do think that AO3 helps you find like an audience, especially with the tag system. I love that AO3 tags. Second, I think it's a marketing goldmine. Now, have you noticed how many books started as fanfiction? The other day I was scrolling on Instagram and I don't remember exactly the book, but the promotion itself, it's what is stuck with me. And it was something along the lines that if you thought Katara and Zuko from Avatar The Last Airbender should have ended up together, you'll love this. So you already know, just with that phrase, if you love the series, what's the dynamic of the characters. They're probably gonna start, it's gonna be probably an enemies to lovers, they're gonna be in different bands of a war, and it's very likely gonna evolve around some sort of magic stuff. Because it's gonna be pretty much Katara and Zuko, but they are not quite Katara and Zuko. Doing that, you already know a lot about the story, the development, and the people that are into Avatar The Last Airbender and they thought Katara and Zuko should end up together. You already know that they're gonna be interested in your book because you are that kind of person, and like it's just matching your buyer persona perfectly. And once again, this could have started as a fanfic and then you change the names, add some descriptions, change the stuff here and there, and voila, you have an original story. On top of that, when you are part of a fandom, you are very likely to like a specific stuff. Let's say most fans of BTS are very likely to also be into TXT or other K-pop groups. If you like, let's say, Criminal Minds, you're probably into crime heavy plots, psychology, and some sort of found family dynamic, and a little bit of murder mystery. If you add into all that mix animation, you probably like Gravity Falls. So when you go with that, especially again in AO3, you can tag specific stuff and you can put like found family, murder mystery, fantasy, whatever stuff, and you can put all those tags and you will target specifically people that are looking for that, because I know that I've been looking for fics with a specific tags for a long time. And as I said before, and this is like kind of a third point-ish, it can easily be turned into a original story. I'm currently writing a fanfic that it's called The Sound of Magic, the one this illustration is made for, and I plan to turn it into an original story eventually. Right now, my focus is on finishing The Sound of Magic and make it the best that I can. And I'm actually trying to make resources to share here with you guys for keeping track of my characters, their descriptions, their powers, because in this story, my protagonist can hear other people's magic. And sometimes I forget how I describe one character's sound, and I have to reread 25,000 words because I forgot how it is. So now I'm trying to write it down like in a proper character sheet and all that jazz. And the only thing I need to do once I'm done is rewrite it, make sure that I change names, maybe change genders, I don't know, but it works like a very detailed outline of the story. And Brandon Sanderson, in one of his classes, that by the way, they are free and are here on YouTube and are amazing classes, he said that he did that he wrote his first book and then he wrote like, I think it was like his sixth book based on the first book he wrote. He didn't publish that one, but used it as a guideline, a very detailed guideline for his original story. Another benefit is that fanfiction allows you to have a direct feedback from your people, from your niche. And I do believe that the better you write, the better quality your comments will be. What I mean by this is I've seen, like, when I'm looking for fics, sometimes I read it and I'm like, it's a little bit poorly written, like the story doesn't really make sense, I don't like the style of writing. That, I mean, it's totally a personal taste, but when I check the comments, when a fic feels that is very like the first thing someone has ever written and it lacks experience from the writer, you can see that in the comments actually, because in my experience, most people don't leave bad comments. They just don't comment at all. And usually the comments in like beginner writers' stories tend to be like, oh, this is so cute. Thank you so much. I love it. Like very concrete and general and generic answers. But when you go to someone that has a little bit more, like who has more experience writing and that writes better stories and has a better understanding of how to write, how to create a plot, and all that jazz, your comments tend to reflect that. And again, I put myself as an example, but also some friends of mine. When I see the comments that people leave in my fic, I've gotten a lot of compliments on my pacing, on the way I describe magic and sounds, because again, it's important for the story, and the way I write. You don't see those kinds of comments in beginners. I think that also allows you to get an idea of what people like. And on top of that, and this is something that I absolutely love, is that you are getting real-time feedback. So a lot of times I'm writing my stuff, yada yada, and then someone comes with a good idea, and like people start creating their own theories. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't thought of that. But I am 100% gonna use it now, and I love to do that. Also, you can experiment with this. When you're writing a fic, if it flops, it flops. It's like there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of fics in the world in AO3. All the time people are publishing fics. If one flops, it's not gonna be the end of the world. And it allows you to experiment a little bit more. Once again, taking myself as an example, for me, The Sound of Magic is an experiment on several stuff. It's a character study, it's a relationship study, and I really wanted to experiment with trying to describe sounds. I have an awful sense of smell, like really, really bad. I don't smell things or unless they are like really, really strong, like let's say gasoline or paint. Like it needs to have a really strong smell in order for me to perceive it, or it has to be like right under my nose. So whenever I read something and it's like, oh, it smells like yada yada yada, I have no clue. Like I cannot relate to that because I can't smell most stuff. It's like, oh, it smells so good of chamomile and cinnamon. And I'm like, I have no clue what chamomile smells like. I am barely able to phantom like how cinnamon smells. But I can imagine how the claws of a dog sound against wooden floors. And I can imagine how the sound of the wind coming can sound. And all I'm not sure if I'm making a lot of sense, but I wanted something that I could relate to that wasn't visual, but a sensory thing that could benefit the story and that was important part of the story. A lot of times the smells are important part of the story. I didn't want there's not gonna be a lot of smells in my story because I cannot smell well. So there are gonna be a lot of sounds, and I wanted to experiment with that. And doing this fic has allowed me to experiment a lot, and I'm really glad I did because, as I said before, it has gotten a really good result, and I'm so happy about it. So to finish all of this, I think you should write fanfiction. It's a low pressure way to start writing, a marketing tool, a stepping stone to original work, and it's a space to experiment. Whether you're writing for yourself or sharing with a fandom, fanfiction can be incredibly rewarding. And who knows? Your fanfic might just be the foundation for your next big project. I know that I'm planning to do that. So, if you are thinking that you want to write your next story, fanfiction or original, I'm gonna leave right here a list that I've made of everything I've learned so far about writing and character creation, and it's gonna be growing, so you can subscribe so you know when the next chapter is gonna be up. If you are interested in my story, you can check the link down below or my newsletter. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.